Hey everybody, welcome back to another tutorial on the internet. Today we are using Blender 2.9 and we are creating scenery for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. In this example, I am working on a racetrack that is missing from Flight Simulator, and I'm creating a scenery pack for that particular area. And I got some buildings and things. I'm not done yet. I got a ways to go yet, but I'm going to show you guys how to make stadium lights. The dev environment has a lot of street lights and stuff that you can just point and click and put street lights, but there's not really any stadium lights. So I'm making some stadium lights. The one thing to understand, there's all different kinds of stadium lights. I went out to the racetrack, took some pictures, got a prototype picture. It's just a simple pole, 60 feet tall, has 2 crossbars, and then it has a whole bunch of, it has 13 fixtures placed, 7 on the top bar, 6 on the bottom. And they're conic fixtures, so those are going to be easy to model. So that's what we're going to show you, and I'm going to show you how you can set up your fixtures so when you bring them into your sim, they will appear that they're on and shining their light to the ground, and you can actually see the light bulb lit up. All right, and we'll talk about that some more as we move along. Now I'll pause in strategic locations if I'm waiting for something to happen, but we'll see how we get along. All right, so really quick, I'm in Blender 2.9. I have a collection called Lights 2. My lights collection is, I've already done this once before, but I'm going to show you how to actually do it. I'm going to make some enhancements from that last time that I did it too, I hope. All right, so we're set up. I'm on the Lights 2 collection. My 3D cursor is on this last object that I was working with. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to Shift A to add a mesh, and it's going to be a cylinder. And then I'm going to move that over to where the light actually is located. I'm moving along the x-axis here, and then I'm going to move along the y-axis to the location of the light itself. I might have to make some little adjustments here. All right, so I have my cylinder, and I'm going to get it a height. I have my units set up in Imperial, because we're here in the United States and we don't know how to use metric. Actually, some of us do, but anyway, it's empirical. You can use metric dimensions if you want to. And I'm going to, for the dimensions, I'm going to leave it 2 foot in diameter. It might be a little bigger than that in real life. Looks like it is, but I'm going to leave it at 2. But the height, I'm going to make it 60 feet because I know it's 60 feet tall. So using Blender, zooming out here, we can see that our pole goes into the ground. So we're going to move that in the Z direction. Z for those here in the United States. All right, and we want to set that pole right on top of the ground, about right there. All right, so now I have a 60-foot pole. All right, but that pole is tapered as it moves to the top, so we'll go into edit mode and we will zoom into our pole. Make sure that we're in vertex, and we want to select our vertices only at the top, and we want to scale those in. So we'll draw those in a little bit like this. So our pole tapers. All right, so that was easy enough. All right, so I'm going to stay in edit mode because the next 2 objects that I create, I want part of the pole. All right, so we're still in edit mode, and I'm going to hit the tilde and go to top view. So now we're looking down at our pole. The next two objects are the crossbars for that. It kind of looks kind of like that. So in edit mode, we want to shift A, and we're going to add a cube, and we're going to scale that cube in the Y direction. My bad. So let's delete that last cube. I forgot to do something. Alright, so my pole is selected. Let's double check, make sure that pole's selected. Hit Shift S and move our 3D cursor to our pole. Okay, so now our 3D cursor is on the pole. I didn't have it. I had it in the last location, and I don't think I really like this either. So let's select that pole. Select that pole again. Shift S. There we go. Now I got it. Now I got it. All right. So our 3D cursor now is locked to where the pole is. So let's go back to top view. Now let's add our cube, and let's scale that in the Y direction until we think it's long enough. You can get real measurements if you want. This looks about right. And then I'm going to scale that in the X direction, make it skinnier, like that. And then I'm going to scale it in the Z direction, or the Z direction, and we're going to make it like that. Now I don't think, yeah, that crossbar is not that far across. So you can scale again in the Y direction, bring that in. Okay, so you got your crossbar. Alright, then we're going to move that in Z. We're going to move it up the pole. Now the top crossbar is longer than the bottom crossbar. Alright, so I want to make a copy of this one by Shift D and hit escape so we don't move it. And then I'm going to GZ, and I'm going to move that down. Like that. Now, like I said, the bottom crossbar is not as long as the top, so we're going to scale that in the Y direction, and we're going to bring that in just a tad. Okay. There are 7 lamps on the the top crossbar, and then there's 6 lamps on the bottom one. Okay, so we have our pole, our mast, and our pole and our masts. Okay, let's apply some materials. I have materials set up for certain parts of the model that I'm making. So we got the pole set up. Let's actually call this light pole. Okay, and then let's select bare aluminum as our material. Okay, so now we have a bare aluminum pole. Now the real pole is probably made out of galvanized steel, and I can create a material that looks like that, but for now I'm just going to use the bare aluminum. Okay, so now that we have our pole, it is time to start adding our lights. And we're going to add one fixture right now. So let's go back to top view, tilde T. Alright, so here's top view of our pole and mast and crossbar. And we're going to add a light, and these are conic, so that's easy. And I am not going to make my lights part of the pole itself because I want to work with them individually. So we're going to make sure that we're not in edit mode, and we are on our light collection. We're going to Shift A, and we are going to add a cone. Now that cone by default points straight down to the ground. So we need to rotate that, and I want it facing east. And so what we're going to do is with our light selected, we are going to rotate R on the y-axis, and we're going to go -90 degrees. That points east. Okay, so if I do a front view here, you can see that our bell faces to the east. Okay, now I want to maybe scale that up a little bit. That bell is a little too small, so just a slight larger than what we had it before. Okay, now we are going to move this light up the z-axis all the way up to the top. Okay, let's get a front view so we can see if we're on that crossbar, and I'm going to go to the wireframe so I can see that I need to move this up a little bit more to our crossbar. Alright, now you notice that the pivot point, or the origin of the cone, is not not in an optimal place. Okay, because when we rotate it, it would spin on this axis. What we want is we want our axis right here at the end of the cone. Okay, so what we can do to change that is we can go into edit mode, make sure vertice selection is done, select that one vertice right there, Shift S, and move our 3D cursor to that selected point. Alright, now get out of edit mode, right click, set origin to the 3D cursor. So now our light will pivot right here on the end. Alright, now what I also want to do is now move that in the X direction so it is at the end of our crossbar. Alright, and then I want to make sure that my 3D cursor is right here, so the next elements that I add are in the same origin as the bell, the fixture itself. So with this object selected, I Shift S, cursor to selected, and it moves it to that point. So anything that I add now will be right there. Okay, so let's go into solid mode here so you can see what we got. Now that's all great and everything, but we want it to look more like a light fixture. So this 3D face that's right here, we need to get rid of that. So with the bell selected, go into edit mode, go to face selection, select that face, and delete it. Alright, so now we have a bell. Alright, looks more like a light fixture. Okay, now you can increase by adding subsurface modifiers if you wanted to make this smoother, but most likely people are going to see this flying in an airplane 1,500, 2,000 feet in the air, so they're not going to really see that fine detail. But like I said, you can add as much detail to your models as you want, such as the coupling that actually holds the bell to the crossbar if you wanted to, and all that kind of stuff. But I'm not looking at that level of detail. If I was doing something architectural, yeah, I would. Alright, okay, now let's get out of edit mode and let's apply our bare aluminum to this bell. So come over here to materials and go bare aluminum. Alright, let's see what that looks like. And we got a kind of nice and shiny metal, right? There we go. See, there we go. Alright, now it's time to actually work on the actual light itself. Alright, so in the same location we are going to add a light. No, I don't want to add the... Do I want to add the light yet? Yeah, let's add the light first. Want the first light. Okay, now let's do a Shift A, and come down to light and add a spot. Now, if you notice, the spot is pointing straight down to the ground. That's how Blender brings in your lights to begin with. All right, so it's pointing straight down to the ground. We want to rotate this spot in the same orientation as our bell, right? All right, easy enough. Since our origin point is at the exact same location, we can rotate Y minus 90 degrees, and now that spot is pointing in the same direction as our bell, just like that. Okay? Now, one thing to understand about lights in Blender: when you add a light in Blender, it doesn't actually add a light bulb that you can see, and it only adds the origin of a particular type of light. Okay? So if we rendered this, you would see light. It would be casting light out on whatever objects that you have, but you would not actually see a light bulb. Okay, so we need to fool the system that there's a light bulb in there. All right, so how do we do that? So we zoom into our cone so we can work here. All right, what we need to do is add an object that is the light bulb. And what I'm going to do is let's come over here and rename cone to be fixture. Okay, so that is that. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to add in another object, and we're going to Shift A, go to Mesh, and we're going to add in an icosphere. Okay, it's a sphere that has less smoothness to it. Okay, and we're going to scale that down to about the size of what one of these light bulbs will look like, right? Now, if we go to the front view, you'll see that that's lined up just so. And I'm going to move that in the X direction by grabbing it with G. Move. Whoops. I'm going to try this again. G and X, and we're going to move that icosphere to be just inside our bell, just like that. Okay, now we have a light bulb, but that light bulb is not going to light up. Okay, it's just an object to make it appear like it's a light bulb, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to add let's add a material to this icosphere. And I already have a material set up, and I call it bulb. So we'll come over here and look for bulb. And all the bulb material is a bright white material that shines. It's shining when light hits it, okay, to make it appear like it's a turned on light bulb, right? Now, here's the trick, and I think most people know this trick, is we need to light that light bulb. So this light bulb also needs a light. Now, there's a couple different ways that you can do that. I'm going to use what is called a point light. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to Shift A, and we're going to add another light, and we're going to add a point light. Now you can play around with point or add another spotlight if you wanted to, which might actually be better, but I'm going to add a point light for this tutorial. So we're going to get a front view here by doing our tilde front, and we are going to move that point light. Do I have a point light? Yeah. We're going to move that point light in the X. So there's our point light. You see that? Okay, and we're going to move it here for now because I want to turn on wire mode so you can see the icosphere inside of our fixture. Okay, so let's move our point light a little further in. Okay. Alright, so now when we turn on our light, when we don't turn it on, the software actually turns it on automatically. When the sim turns on the light, the point light is going to light up this icosphere so we see a bright white orb inside our light fixture. Okay, but the spotlight that we added first is actually what's going to be light that casts to the ground. All right, so our light is made up of 4 parts. It's made up of the cone, made up of the spot, made up of the icosphere, which is our light bulb, and made up and our point light, which lights up that sphere. Okay, does that make sense? All right, now let's add some characteristics to our actual lights. So I'll select the spot and come to our little properties of our light. Now these are pretty bright lights, okay, and we're going to start with a 2000 watt light. They're actually brighter than 2000 watts. I think they're probably around somewhere between 5 and 10,000 watts. Is that right? Yeah. A car headlight is 10,000 watts, so that kind of gives you an idea how bright they are. All right, so these are, I'm going to make it 2,000 watts for now, okay? And I'm going to leave the radius at a quarter of a foot, all right? Now I want to zoom in and select our point light. And our point light, we don't want it as bright because we don't want it to really cast the light to a lot of other objects, right? So we're going to make this maybe 100 watt because we only want to light up the icosphere, okay? And we are 0.25, yeah, same. All right, we can play with that once we get it into the sim to see how that looks. All right, so these objects are set up. So I got these 4 objects make up a light. The spot, we have its characteristics, and the point light, we have its characteristics in terms of how much light that you want to cast. And you can change the color of the light and all that kind of stuff by changing this over here. But usually stadiums have bright white lights, and that's what we're going to stay with. Now, the other thing that we need to do is we need to set up parenting. And parenting means that when you change one object, if it's parented with another object, when you move the parent, the child will move accordingly with the parent. Okay? Now, you can move the child all you want, and it won't affect the parent, but if you move the parent, the child acts along with that parent. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to set up a series of parenting. So when I move this bell, everything that's attached moves and points accordingly. All right, so first thing that we're going to do is we're going to do the spotlight to the bell. So I choose the spotlight, hit shift, hit the bell, and then Control P, and we select object. All right, so now the spotlight and the bell are parented, and I'll show you. So if I select the cone and I rotate that in the Y, my spot goes with it. Okay, see how that works? All right. Now we want all the other, let me move so I can see the icosphere. All right, so now I want to select the point light and the spotlight and Control P and object. So now when I select the bell and rotate that in the Y, that point light goes with it as well. All right, one more parenting. Okay, so we're going to select the point light, and then we're going to select the isosphere and Control P, object. So now I have a series of parenting made up. I have the icosphere parented to the point light. The point light is parented to the spotlight, and the spotlight is parented to the actual fixture itself. So when I select a fixture and rotate that on the Y, oops, something didn't move. Let's try this again. Let's see what I have parented here. Do I have the ICO? Let's go object properties, and no. Okay, so let's select the point light, and then let's select the sphere, then the point light, and then Control P, object. So let's see if this works. So select the cone, rotate in the Y. No, it still didn't work. What am I doing wrong? Let's see, is it point light? Yeah, no, it would be this icosphere and the point. Let's do an Alt P here. Make sure they're not parented. Okay, so choose the icosphere, point light, Control P, parent to object. Okay, now when I move this, yeah, okay, those two are parented. Okay, now if I choose the cone, they all should move. So let's rotate this in the Y. Why isn't that working? Why isn't that working? Alright, I'm doing something wrong, so hold on, I'll be right back with you. Okay, I'm back. What I did was I didn't click good enough, but anyway, I selected the spot and then selected the bell, parented those. Then I selected the point and then the spot, parented those. Then I selected the icosphere and then the point and parented those. Okay, and now if I rotate, if I rotate the bell, everything moves together. Okay, so I was just going too fast and I didn't actually have things selected as what happened. All right, so remember, the object you want to parent and then the object you want to parent that to. All right, so in this case I had to do 3 parentings. Okay, spot to bell, point to spot, ico to point. Make sense? All right, so now anytime I move or copy this bell, all of that information will go along with it. Okay, need to pause for a second. Okay, I'm back. I had to check something. All right, now I want to show you over here in this pane. Here shows you, this is the hierarchy of the parenting. Okay, so the icosphere is the lowest, and it's parented to the point light, and the point light is parented to the spotlight, and the spotlight is parented to our fixture. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to make copies of this for every location that there's a light. Okay, so if you come over to the tree, select your fixture, come down to the lowest on the totem pole, so to speak, and shift select. All of those elements are selected. Okay, now you can shift D, and if I move, it's gonna, you move it there. I usually escape and then control it with the G and then the direction. So we're going to move it in the Y direction. Okay, and we're going to move it along our light pole here. Okay, so there's that. All right, now you can Control D and copy again. I mean Shift D and copy again. Okay, move that in the Y like this. And then you can do it again. All right, Shift D, and then escape and move in the Y. All right, so I have 4 lights sitting on this bar. Okay, now let's see, that was the third one. So come down here. So that's my last one, and this is this one. All right, so I want to open all these up so I can get them all selected. So I go to fixture 2 and shift and hold that so all of those are selected, and then I can make any adjustments to the location of the lights, right? Okay, so I have these 3, and I need 3 more on the other side, and I need 6 at the bottom. And basically I'm going to select these 3 and copy them 3 more times. All right, so I won't bore you with that, so I'll put you on pause while I do that. Be right back. Okay, I've made copies of all those lights. Now I know this might seem like it's a whole bunch of work, but I wanted this like this on purpose because each one of these lamps points in a totally different spot. So this allows me now to adjust the rotation of each one of these lights and light up different parts of my stadium. Okay, so it might seem like I did some overkill, but I really didn't, because I want it to be more realistic. All right, so every one of these lights is lighting up and pointing straight to the east, right? Okay, but in reality they're going to be pointing to different parts of the track, right? All right, so now first of all I want to always save, so I need to save. All right, so now I have my light pole set up, my first light pole. All right, now let's do some fine tuning, and I'm only going to move a couple of them. I'm not going to move every one of them, but what I want to do is I want to start focusing these lamps to light up certain parts of the track, right? All right, so I'm going to get this in a view. Now, this light right here is actually going to point over to this this queuing area for the race cars. All right, these are lines of cars that they line up to queue into the space. All right, so this light is going to light up over here. All right, so all I need to do is now I just need to select the bell, the fixture, and rotate it in whatever axis that I'm interested. First we're going to rotate it in the Z axis so it points over in that direction. Okay, and you can kind of move around like this to see how that's pointed. All right, so I got it pointed in the right direction using the Z on the Z axis, and now we're going to point it down, and that's going to be along the Y axis. So I'm going to rotate Y, and I can I don't have my cursor out far enough. Rotate Y and point it down. Okay, so that light is pointing hopefully toward that space. Now it's going to light up part of this building because the radius is so great. All right, now let's choose this light on the end, and let's rotate it on its Z-axis and make it point over here towards some of the grandstands here. But we want to light up the track. That's the most important. So got it rotated on the Z. Now we're going to rotate it on the Y and point it down. And we're going to point that sucker right at the track. Okay, something like that. All right, well, it might be a little bit too low, so let's rotate Y, bring it up a tad, so we're pointing right there. Okay, and then some of these lights, they let's move this one down. Let's just rotate it on its Y and shoot it. Rotating, the further away from the object that you're rotating your cursor is, the better control that you have. So let's do this. And let's move that down. Shoot it about right there. Okay. And then we'll take this light, and I'm not going to do all of them. Okay. So we're going to rotate this one down a little bit to the starting line, something like that. Okay, so I have 4 lights that I have rotated to point to a certain location. Okay, so I have that all saved, or do I? All right, save. All right, now we have one light bulb, one light made. All right, the next step is setting it up for using in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I'm going to pause and come back to you in a second. Okay, I'm back. I just needed to start the simulator up so you can get into the dev environment. I didn't want to slow us down. All right, because this is long. This is getting pretty long anyway. All right, so I'm at the airport that's right north of the racetrack, and this is the area of the racetrack right here that we're working with. And this is the default scenery. This is not my scenery. All right, so there's the sim. So let's go back into Blender and get this ready for Flight Simulator. All right, so the one thing that you have to do is you got to make sure that you get everything selected that is going to be part of that object. All right. Now I already have a light pole that I did earlier that's already in there, so you might see that right away. Okay, or maybe not. Okay. So anyway, in Blender, go to your light and make sure that all of the subdirectories for your objects are open, because you're going to need to get to them. Okay, I know that's kind of a pain, but let's expand all these levels, so when we do a select, we get them all, because when you export, you're exporting objects that you have selected. Okay, so get these all open here. I mean, for this tutorial, I probably don't need to get them all selected, just a few lights that we're interested in, but anyway, I'm showing you. Most of you probably have a smoother workaround for this, but that's okay, and I respect that. Alright, but anyway, let's get these all open. Oh, I didn't really need to do that one. Alright, so let's come up to lights 2, select our first object, come all the way down, hit shift, and select that. So now I have our light pole selected and all the lights and everything that goes with it. Then I'm going to come over here to File, and we're going to export to MSFS. And that's going to bring up this dialog box. And I'm going to go into my package sources and my model lib and stadium lights, and I'm going to make sure that this says stadium light down here, stadium lights, hit enter, come over here to MSFS, make sure that that's stadium light. Now if I was doing this for the first time, it wouldn't have been there, but this was the last thing that I did. So we got stadium lights here, so hit enter there, And then double check to make sure that the include is selected objects, custom properties, transform is this, and geometry has all these check marked. Okay, now you click export. This might take a while, and I'm gonna go ahead and do this, go ahead and get that going, and I'm gonna check something on my end. And we are going to go over to make sure that this updated on my computer here. And today at 12:11, it's all there. Okay, so I can minimize that. Alright, so now we can minimize Blender. Go back into the sim. Now we need to build this. Actually, I do, because I added features. So we're going to go to Tools, open up the Project Editor, go to Project, and we are going to open. And our project is Summit. Open up the XML for that. Then I'm going to choose the project, and I'm going to I think I did a build here. I'm going to clear this out so we can see fresh information. So we are going to come over here to build package, and we're going to let that build and see what happens. So down at the bottom it says package builder 11 skipped. Obviously, 4 done, 0 failed. That's good. So our project has been built. It has created a package. And I'm going to turn off the console. I'm going to close the project. And then I'm going to reopen the project. Summit XML. And then I'm going to open up the My Scene VGL, and I'm going to load that into our editor. It takes a little bit for it to show up. There we go. Alright, so we can come down to our racetrack here, and let's zoom in to see if our light is there. There is our light. This is what we created. Now, those lights are actually on. Flight Simulator will always have lights that you make in Blender on day or night, but during the day, I mean, it just looks like they're shiny. It doesn't really look like they're on. But if we come over here, we want to see what this looks like. We can go to options and change our lighting to nighttime, and there's our lights. And so it's lighting up our racetrack. Okay, so, and yeah, those lights are really that bright. I've been there. And there's 7 more poles that we got to put up. And down at the end, they only have like street lights at the end. There's one of these at the finish line, but further down where the cars keep going and make their track back to the pits, then they just have regular street lights along there. But at the stadium, they're super bright. Okay, so that is creating a stadium light. Okay, now I can copy this light, use the same light, and copy it in 7 different spots, so I have a total of 8, but we're using that one model. And you can go in and focus each one of those bells to certain spots, or if you think it looks just fine, you can leave it just like that. But yeah, that is making a stadium light. And if we kind of zoom in here, move this over, because we have that point light and that icosphere inside of that bell, it looks like your light bulb is on. Alright, so that's how you make a stadium light in Blender and put it in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Okay, so I hope you liked the video. I know it's long, it's complicated. Well, it's not really complicated once you get the hang of it, but I really would appreciate if you would subscribe to the channel, because I'm making more of these videos, and subscribe and hit that bell for notifications. And I have a Patreon. Please support what I do, and I thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next video. See you later.